And it is these pictures that have South Florida buzzing today.
This is Jupiter, Florida, a place where sharks, much like humans, migrate for warmer temperatures in the winter.
Tens of thousands of sharks migrating south for the winter.
Here, masses of lemon sharks gather every year. They call it a shark aggregation, a kind of shark social circle.
Nothing like this anywhere in the world.
Wow.
Totally unique.
NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, commonly known as the agency that monitors severe storms, is also responsible for managing fisheries. This year, NOAA moved the opening of the shark fishing season on the Atlantic coast back to January 1st, which has many conservationists upset.
They were opening the commercial shark season, which included the ability to kill lemon sharks. And they opened it right on January 1st, which is right dead in the middle of the aggregation. So the commercial shark fishermen, they're not stupid. They go, well, let's go to Jupiter and kill all those sharks. And now our population has gone from where we saw hundreds to where we see a couple of dozen at the peak of the season.
When I heard about this, I knew just the person to cover the story. 22-year-old shark advocate Madison Stewart.
I was raised in Australia and I was raised in the water with sharks. It's something me and my dad were really passionate about. And ever since I was about 14 years old and I noticed a decline of sharks in the areas that I was diving, I have been kind of protecting sharks and working to give people a better understanding of sharks. It is very scary to look at the impact we've had on their species.
The Gulf Stream flows just off the coast of Jupiter, closer than anywhere else in the United States. That's why there are a lot of highly migratory species here, including the Northern Atlantic right whale, which we were lucky enough to see, since they only appear here 1 or 2 weeks every year. It's hard for me to have a first encounter with a species of shark that I've never seen before, but Jupiter gave me that. This was my first time seeing bull sharks. Jupiter is something else. It's unique. I felt like I was diving for the very first time again. Diving with lemon sharks was an awesome experience. They got so close to us, kicking up the sand. Then, as if it couldn't get any better, we were swimming along in this eerie green water. And I looked up to see a distinctive eye. I was looking at a tiger shark. At one point we had 3 species of sharks all at once, bulls, lemons and a tiger. It was so much fun and brought me back to memories of my childhood and being in situations with sharks that I never thought were possible.
Tiger shark! That was awesome. That's all I have to say.
After the dive, Nico spoke to Randy about the value of this apex predator.
One thing we need to learn in America is what they've learned in the Bahamas and Fiji and all around the world. The shark ecotourism is so much more valuable than a dead shark. A dead shark, you might get nothing for the body. That's why they usually throw it away. And you get a few dollars for the fins. So maybe you get $200 to kill, something that we need, and we all know that. Whereas if a shark that's out there that I can take people to see, they keep paying over and over and over, and they stay in the hotels and they come in from all over the world to see these sharks. It's a very, very valuable asset.
Both divers and fishermen benefit economically from sharks, but not all fishermen are guilty of cashing in.
The good news is we have an absolute hero in commercial shark fishermen, Scott Taylor.
Scott Taylor is a long-time commercial fisherman who's fished the Florida waters for years, including fishing for sharks. But recently, he's taken a different stance.
Tell me why you're not taking advantage of being able to fish these sharks while they're here in good numbers.
There seems to be an aggregation. It's not been confirmed to me that it's a spawning aggregation, but for some reason that those sharks are there. This is not a commercially valuable targeted species. There's no real financial motivation for the industry to target them.
Scott said what really concerns him when it comes to shark fishing, a recreational fisherman.
We're required as commercial fishermen and dealers to take, shark identification courses. We understand what we're catching. We understand about what the animal is, what the commercial value is to it, how to handle the animal for proper release. The recreational sector does not have to do that. Secondly, there's far more recreational impact in numbers than there is from the handful of commercial guys that are actually out there.
Recent studies of tag sharks indicate that the population in the Jupiter area has been decimated over the last 4 years. In 2010, 49% of tag sharks were observed returning to the area. By 2014, the latest year on record, that number was down to just 15%. There's no concrete evidence to say whether it's down to commercial fishing, recreational fishing, climate change, or something else. When locals heard about NOAA's decision to change the season opening to January, they knew they had to take action. Underwater photographer Richard Apple knows these waters well. He even took a few shots of me on our dive. Richard's so concerned with the declining number of sharks that he started a petition that garnered international attention, attracting almost 18,000 signatures from 40 different countries.
The permits that are given to each commercial boat for fishing allow them to catch and keep and kill up to 36 to 45 sharks per day.
Per day?
Per boat, per day. So even 2 or 3 boats, you can see where they could kill up to 100 sharks a day. I suggested, let's start a petition. The petition turned out to be very popular. The word spread very quickly.
After receiving significant pressure, NOAA held a public conference call where they answered questions regarding their approach to the Jupiter area.
You say that it's sustainable. We down here who dive with the sharks all the time, we know how many sharks are out there. And so my point to them was, doesn't it behoove you maybe to send some people down here to come with us so we can show them? So maybe you can see firsthand. And their answer was very blunt. No, NOAA Fisheries doesn't care. Our feedback, our firsthand experience, our firsthand observations, they consider irrelevant.
So I flew to DC to speak about the controversy surrounding the new opening date with Margot Schultz-Haugen, Highly Migratory Species Division Chief at NOAA Fisheries.
Do you think there's any concern that a not-so-good opportunistic fisherman could now legally go to the aggregation site and easily fish the 36 sharks of that species on that day, knowing that the lemon sharks are in that area?
So it is a possibility, but it's been a possibility for a really long time, and it hasn't happened. And so again, I think the people that are fishing for sharks, they're business people. They're looking to make as much profit as they can. And so even though they could fish in a particular place for a less marketable species, they're focusing their efforts where they're more productive for the profitable species. And so, you know, it's in a possibility, but again, it hasn't happened. I think the likelihood is though.
Some divers and local scientists said that they noticed a decline or an effect on the local shark population when it was allowed to start on January 1st in the past. Is there any evidence to that?
From 1993 up until the very few years recently, it has always opened January 1st, and the lemon shark populations survived. And we don't have evidence that they are overfished at this time. One of the comments that had been suggested was that we have a smaller opening in January and save most of the fishing for summertime when all of the fishermen would have access. And so that's what we did this year.
NOAA says that so far, the data they've received from scientists studying the area doesn't show anything conclusive.
When we looked at it, the correlation between some declines and some aggregations and fishing was not clear to us. There can be lots of reasons why sharks are in some places at some times and not others. Things like water quality, temperature changes, food availability. These are highly migratory species. And so they may be somewhere for some period of time due to reasons that aren't consistent over the years.
While NOAA can't tell us how many lemon sharks live in the Atlantic, they claim, based on a 2009 study, that the population is stable. Since 2010 though, scientists studying the Jupiter area tell us that the number of tag sharks returning to the area has decreased dramatically. After years of a relatively steady return rate, the numbers have suddenly dropped, which they believe is correlated with the change in the fishing protocol. According to them, these sharks have most likely been killed. Whether NOAA or other scientists are correct in their data, one thing is certain: global shark populations are declining. And when you have something this amazing at risk, it is our job to protect it. It's not just a resource, it's an ecosystem that we rely on. And for reasons unknown, It means something special to the sharks here.